Everybody see that debate last night? One down, two to go.
So the day after the big debate, still trying to gauge who came out on top. So we're looking at the reviewers versus the viewers. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and I want to show you something. It is very unscientific. It is hardly reliable. It is more like a quick gut check that statistically doesn't jibe with some other more establishment figures. How average folks who were watching last night's debate feel. If you were looking at this through thehill.com and some of these others, you see Donald Trump. You see it in Variety. You see it in CBS New York. You see it in, can this be right, Slate, in Fortune, and in NewJersey.com. There are others, and I should be fair and accurate here. There are others that similarly have Hillary Clinton doing very, very well. The lion's share of the professional reviewers and the professional crowd says, well, Hillary Clinton did better. But if average folks watching the same debate had a knee-jerk different impression, it would not be the first time that's happened. The former Reagan advisor Ed Rollins, former Democratic pollster Pat Caddell. Pat, begin with you. What do you make of that? Knee-jerk, not exactly overly statistically reliable, but in enough cases, impressions from average folks, Donald Trump won.
Well, you know, first of all, I was actually involved in a statistically significant poll last night for Breitbart and Gravis, who did it, which was based on almost 900 interviews of people who had previously agreed to be interviewed. And, you know, it was a slight Clinton win in terms of overall. But Trump won the big things, particularly for him on being plausible as president, cares about people, which is normally a Democratic issue. Honesty. She won on issues. That's not a surprise. The problem is with the pundits, whether in many places, is that they have never understood this election year or the electorate. They keep thinking this is over. They've been wrong for over a year and a half, or almost 2 years, about how much the American people want change. And I didn't particularly think that Trump did great last night, but she did not have a great message. She was prepared. And I think that what we discover is, what I discovered in the polling last night, is this is what happens in first debates. They are rarely decisive. 95% of the people we interviewed said they did not change their mind. And the few percent that did, actually, Trump gained a little bit. But it's not a head-to-head race, but because so many people don't watch the debate.
All right.
So anyway,
I was just asking if you liked it. So I didn't really care about the other stuff.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Ed Rollins.
I'm happy to have you back, though.
Thank you, my friend. Let me ask you, Ed, about that reaction. You were reminding me on Fox Business that how the professional crowd feels could be a little different than how average folks at home feel. So obviously, a lot of these folks who were watching maybe didn't care about debating points. Maybe they cared about other stuff. A trend it is not. I just want to hasten to add that. But what do you make of that?
No, seldom do polls, do debates ever change. You go in sort of cheering for somebody, and you look at their strong points, and you basically come out saying that they won or didn't win. In my long history, which is 5 decades now, I've never really seen a debate change a large number of voters. They change sometimes a small number. The snap polls, in often cases, you know, you can vote multiple times. It's kind of sometimes the publication that the conservatives read. Trump has won every single one of, like, Drudge or what have you. So I think the key thing is he didn't have a good night, as Pat said, and there's lots of things that we can say that he could do better. Her supporters are obviously very happy. I think it stopped the bleeding that was going on.
Right.
But it's a dead even race, and this is going to go down to a dead even race. And she didn't get honest overnight, and she didn't basically get warm and fuzzy overnight, which are two serious things. And she's still part of the establishment. So I don't think any of her liabilities have gone away, and I think we now have to battle it out. The important thing for Trump is he now knows he has to practice and be prepared for a much better performance in the next two. Obama lost the first one, did better in the second two, and my sense is Trump will do better in the next two. If he doesn't, then it's his own fault.
It's an interesting point because we do look at debating points, clarity, able to make your argument concisely. I think I'm just expressing my own reaction, Pat, that I thought Hillary Clinton won on that count. But maybe a lot of these folks who are watching say they didn't mind that he wasn't as polished, that he wasn't as scripted or whatever. I don't know whether that would hold if he did the same for the next 2 debates. But what do you think?
Well, I think that may be true. And look, I thought that she sort of won on points. I thought he was defensive at times. I thought he made his points at times. The point Ed made is important. People go in rooting for their candidate. And look, when I first, in 1976, got into studying debates going back to 60, I discovered it was all a great myth. John Kennedy had topped Nixon in the first debate, everybody said, but the movement and the vote was very small. What it did is it helped his image. That's what I'm saying. These debates tend to build up about how they do, about perceptions, and that is a steady process. In that way, debates are a vehicle for challengers. Trump just standing there with her and being reasonable and not becoming totally crazy or something. With some of the undecided, you have 2 very unpopular candidates, and he did all right.
All right, guys, I want to thank you both very, very much.
Thank you.